Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to see everybody. Oh, I think I hear an echo, Sandra. It must be all those enthusiastic people on the line clamoring to get in. Big welcome. Welcome to Successfully Social. And I'm really delighted, really excited that we've got a very special guest with us tonight. Hopefully you'll have seen some of the posts that we've shared, but absolutely delighted to be able to announce that we have Blair Glazer in the house tonight. So big welcome to Blair. Yay! Oh. That's some applause. And
wow, that's a lot of claps for like 40 people, right?
Oh, I'll tell you what, the hundreds that are still queuing to come in, Blair, it's just astonishing as we speak. And of course, my inimitable co-host, Sandra Watson. What can we say? We've got and claps and a drum roll. What can we say? What can we say? So, welcome everybody. On a serious note, absolutely delighted that you've been able to join us tonight for what promises to be really interesting, quite fascinating, and hopefully very involved discussion with everybody that's coming on stream on the subject of team building in the context of relationships and business teams. Before I get into introducing Blair properly, though, I am going to humble myself and make a profound apology, because in my Brit style of enthusiasm, I got a couple of core facts slightly wrong about Blair, and I just need to correct a couple of those things just now. So, Blair, if I get this wrong, please give me a kick or a signal or anything that you deem to be suitable. Thank you. The first thing is that Blair, your association with JP Morgan and Chase, clearly the companies merged now.
Yes.
And I hadn't fully appreciated that. And in fact, your connection with JP Morgan Chase was through an executive, as I understand, and you did some very close work with that person. And that person subsequently left the organization.
That is correct.
Yeah, and you did a lot of work with them, but that was in conjunction with a particular individual. So I've got that right. Hooray!
I like your story better, that I'm in high demand there. That really worked for me, I have to say. So I'm just going to put that into the law of attraction field. And
well, that's very generous of you. And you know what? I just was so fascinated with everything that you did that it just seemed a natural flow. That's what I'm going to say. So that just seemed very natural. And the other thing, of course, is you've had an association. We may come back to this, but you've had an association with Jane Fonda in terms of some excellent and superb facilitation workshops that you did. But I think I stated that was in New York, and in fact that wasn't the case, Blair, was it? I think it was somewhere in Georgia. Would that be right?
Correct. Yeah, Southern Georgia, which is kind of an oxymoron because it's a southern state, but the southern part of that state, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, I now feel partly redeemed, so that's all good news. So now, Blair, very big welcome to you, proper welcome to you. And what we normally like to do is it's great that you're here. It's just ask you a few things about yourself before we get into any further questions. So Blair, in a nutshell, where are you at the moment in terms of your journey, and what's really happening to you at the moment?
Well, what's so exciting is that I get to work with a wide variety of people on two core issues. Sure. I get to work in the corporate sphere, teaching people about how to lead better and how to relate better to other people in order to enhance their relationship. Mm-hmm. And then I really get to work with individuals and couples on improving their relationships with leadership skills. Brilliant. And all of the work that I've done over the years has sort of really culminated into these two principles, leadership and relationship, and the intersection between the two, and we'll talk about that more later, I'm sure, but that gives you a gist of where I am now. Yeah,
and we certainly will talk about that more later, because it occurs to me as I look at some of your publications and some of the many things that you've written, as well as get a sense of the courses and intensives that you run, that there is quite a synergy between the two. And although that appears obvious, maybe there's more of a synergy than I at first thought. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it something that's just evolved within you and you've kind of seen similarities with relationship coaching and organizational coaching, or is it something that you've taken time to think about, Blair? It's probably not a great question, but I think you guess where I'm coming from.
Sure, I guess where you're coming from. If you really think about it, there's no leadership without people. The whole point of leadership is to help or drive a group of people towards a particular goal.
Sure.
So the ability to really understand what it means to connect with another person and relate is an essential aspect of leadership. Mm-hmm. And similarly, when we're moving towards connection with another person, as two people become a team of sorts, it's really useful if people can become conscious about how they're leading the couple and where they're leading the couple or the family to. And without being clear on that, a lot of intimate relationships tend to go into these default modes where things kind of spiral down. Similarly, in organizations, if the leadership isn't in touch with their ability to connect with people, to listen, to relate, to understand who their clients are, then, as you know, things spiral down.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, Blair. This is an appalling habit of mine. So I interrupted you. Do go on, please.
I was just going to say, and really, clarity is what's so important, and we need other people to help us establish that clarity. A lot of the time, we just are too in it to get the perspective that we need. After some training, I believe that people in individual relationships and in organizations can begin to get that perspective, but it takes training.
Yeah, now this is fascinating. I'm going to invite Sandra in a minute, because Sandra's had a number of her own businesses and clearly has got a very interesting perspective from that side of things. Just to give you a flavour of our audience, Blair, we have got a mix of small business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, and clearly people who are interested in what you've got to say about their own personal relationships. So we have got the whole range of people here that are going to be listening to you tonight. I'm going to bring some comments up in a minute, but Sandra, you look as though you've been quite reflective about what Blair's been saying. What are the thoughts that come to mind with you at the moment, Sandra?
When you guys were talking, I was thinking, about the relationships, whether it be corporate business or just in couples or whatever. I guess my question would be then for couples or businesses, let's say that you bring in people because of their skills in business, but you don't really look at their personalities per se. You may give them tests and it shows this and that, but then when they actually get in the situation, their core I'm not going to say value, but their core goal was not really aligned with what you were wanting the company to do, then how do you mix that in to getting it right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, the first thing that most people do, and this is a default reaction, is that they go, we made a mistake, this isn't right, this isn't the right alignment. And then what starts to happen is something I call scapegoating, where everyone starts to see that this newcomer is not aligned with the vision or the mission, is not quite right, and everyone takes their frustrations and anxiety about the work and kind of funnels it into the problem being this person. Occasionally, the person really is a problem, but more often than not, the communication hasn't been established about what that person's job actually is and how they're going to do it.
So then do you suggest that, small businesses generally don't have the wherefore-all to go out and bring in someone like you to help make the correction, if you will. What would be your suggestion to a small business? Maybe it's only 3 or 5 people in the beginning, but they could have major conflicts going on that you're saying can be corrected and put into the right path. What would be something they could do?
Well, I think that if you've hired somebody for a particular talent that they have, you want to make sure that they're using it and that they're following through, and see if you can focus on keep funneling those kinds of projects to that person, rather than expecting them to behave perhaps in a different way that hadn't been clearly articulated. Again, if the job isn't right, the job isn't right. First of all, I do want to correct you and say that I do work with solopreneurs. If you go to the business section on my site, there is a section, and I have really affordable ways that solopreneurs can get together and take these questions that you just brought, Sandra, and bring them to each other. And then I facilitate. so that we're not in it alone, because so often if you're the leader of a small business, you feel like you're on a boat by yourself, the captain of a boat without that much of a GPS system. So, but I do want to say that, you know, I'm thinking right now of a couple that hired a third person who they were really excited about. And the third person just wasn't clear on the job. She thought that her job was to be much more, even though her job was to do some marketing, she kind of got the impression that her job was to be the face of the marketing, and that hadn't been established. So they all got to sit down and really have a talk about what happened, what got miscommunicated, and how they could move forward in a way that was suitable. And it turns out that this person really wanted to have her own marketing company, and she found that out. But one of the great things about the fact that they communicated well around this without blame and without bringing a lot of the upset that was evoked by the situation, the good thing about it was that she actually recommended someone that was a better fit. And that turned out to be a good situation. Is that useful for you, Sandra? Does that answer your question?
Oh, I think it is, and I think it's useful for the audience, and I'm glad you brought up about the fact that you do like to work with solopreneurs, because I think most solopreneurs get the idea that everything is going to be out of their reach, and that they can't use that third party or second party because they haven't established enough money at this point, when in fact in the beginning, if they don't establish some of those things, they won't get to where they're going.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say, and then Sean, I know you want to say something, but you really need to look at what you're investing in. If you're investing in your people, and you're investing in understanding the best ways to work together, that's going to be a really great way to lead yourself to productivity and profitability if you're not being distracted by these interpersonal issues.
I am going to leap in there if I can. I mean, I've got 2 or 3 thoughts that are going through my head at the moment. I've also got some shout-outs that I'd really like to do. Big welcomes to Tanya Lumiere. Bless you. Nice to see you, Tanya. Thanks for some of your graphics lately. Really appreciate those. Thomas Rhodes. Good to see you, Thomas. Thanks for joining us.
Hi,
Thomas
Tom.
says, glad to be here for the amazing Blair Glazer. So one more of you raging fans. Andy Lyons. Sadly, Andy didn't direct this to me, so I'm feeling a little bit humbled and upset. But Andy has said, looking gorgeous Blair Glazer. Notably, nothing to do with Sean Mahon's appearance whatsoever. I'm not talking to her.
Andy!
Andy, how could you? And Kevin, bless him, Kevin Burns. Good to see you as well, Kevin. Big audience in the house. There is indeed, Kevin, for Blair Glazer and Sandra Watson. And bonjour to Sean. Thanks. Don't know why I did the Vulcan salute then. It just seemed to be the right thing to do, Kevin. But very good to see you. Now, my thinking, actually, while you were talking about small organizations and the benefit of transparency and communication leading to clarity and objectives and what that can mean for teams. Right. And I've worked for small organizations and work on my own at the moment. I've also worked for big corporate. And I wondered what your take is, Blair, where sometimes the objectives, let's take small to medium-sized businesses, and the objectives that are stated in terms of business objectives aren't the complete picture, and possibly at times that organization is in a difficult situation in terms of cash flow and other tensions. So what happens is, with the best of intentions, the objectives become accelerated, i.e. someone comes in on probation with a clarity of objectives, and yet 4 weeks into a new job, if they're not turning over $3 million, then they find themselves in a catastrophic relationship with their boss. Is that something you come across, and have you got any guidance for that sort of scenario? Because I'm afraid I saw that quite a lot, to be honest.
Well, I think what needs to be established up front is whether or not, if you're a candidate for a new job, and you're hiring for a new job, whether or not your candidate can handle the kind of pressure
Sure.
that you're under. That's one thing. And I've seen that too, where there's a job that needs to be done. It's a very specific kind of job, but the person who's hired to do it really feels like there needs to be a more methodical, gradual building rather than a, this is often a sales issue. I notice this a lot in sales, of course, because that's where the money's going to come in. But a lot of salespeople actually operate very well under pressure. So I think that, again, you need to do your homework if you're hiring. You need to really understand how this person has performed under pressure in the past, and you need to be upfront about that. That's what's going to happen. That's how you can be a responsible business leader in hiring. On the other end, sometimes we drown in the workload. Sometimes we sign up for a job and we think it's one thing, and that ends up being a whole different thing. How do you manage that anxiety? How do you manage the gap between what it is you thought you were going to do and now what's being asked for you? One thing I suggest is that you vet your position with your boss. Here's something that I find all the time, and I think a lot of you will relate to this, like in the story I just told about the marketing person. People confuse their title with their job.
Very true.
If you can really get people to understand what they're responsible for carrying out in the service of the organization, and have a real out and out, this is what the job is. A lot of stuff like territorial issues and things like that, even sometimes often politics, can get sidestepped because the focus is so clear.
I really love that, and that gives me a lot of pause for reflection. And I particularly love the way you describe that people sometimes mix up job title with the job itself, and things and egos and other obstacles get in the way that really shouldn't. Is that something that you saw? I know you were in leaner organizations, Sandra, but is that something you saw in smaller business?
I have to admit that, it depended on the business type, and it also had to do, and I know that probably some people would have an issue with this, but it had to do with the disparity between female and male a lot of times, the numbers and everything, which was always interesting to me. Depending on which kind of gender issues we were working with, did we have more female, less male, etc. It always changed things like that. The other thing is the people that were, quote, in leadership, how they looked at leadership in teams. I mean, that's one of the things that we're talking about today. And if you look at yourself as a leader, but you don't consider yourself part of a team at the same time, then I find and have found in the business platform that there can be some really big problems come from that, because a lot of times people get into leadership positions and they know nothing about what that means, and they think right away that means they have to be of a bullying nature maybe, and not into the, let's work through this together. I have my talents, you have your talents, we can communicate, etc. So I found that I had to learn some of those things very readily, because when I got into business and leadership and ownership, it was something that's put on you pretty quickly. And so if you are a business owner, all of a sudden now these things are hitting you very quickly, and if you haven't been prepared for them, you've really got to sit and analyze and go find places to get the answers. Does that answer that pretty well or not? Everybody got quiet. Everybody's
overwhelmed, Sandra, with the sheer genius of what you've just said.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, Blair, did you have a thought on that before I leap into it?
No, that was comprehensive. That was good.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Kevin, there may be a bit of a segue here, actually, interestingly. Oh, Tracy, big shout out. Tracy Baker's just joined us. Great to see you, Tracy. Thank you for coming along. Kevin, I'm just going to put this up, and I may have to read a little bit more than we've got on the screen, but Kevin's asking you, Blair, I'm interested to learn about Blair's approach when dealing with folks, oftentimes more junior folks in your own organization and outside, that do not want to or will not work with you. Now he goes on to say the case where their switch operates in the off mode, and I'm just zipping across here, and where normal communication doesn't work. I classify these types as, oh, and there goes the comment, just in the middle of, oh my gosh. I classify these types as one type of difficult person, aka Dr. Branson's book. So do you follow that comment?
Yeah, I do follow that comment. I mean, sometimes we are forced to work with people who don't share our values.
Thanks, Kevin.
I find this a lot with cross-cultural communication within teams. There are certain cultures that don't really enjoy the same kind of social engagement that maybe the rest of the people in the office do. There are a lot of complexities that could be a factor in somebody appearing to not want to work with you, and maybe sometimes they really don't. What's important in those situations is the work. And if they can understand that they need to do the work and that you're a part of that, then you got to get through it. It's not the best answer. It's not, sometimes people work in conflict, but what's important is that the work gets done. And then when projects are done and you really haven't enjoyed the working experience, there are things that can be done. There are people that you can talk to. But I do understand your concern is unpleasant. What I do like to recommend to people, however, is that if you're the type of person that wants to feel connected, then finding ways to make bridges will make your time better. So if that person likes a certain food, you can bring it to one work session. You can sort of get a little bit of a sense of what makes them tick, and you'll be surprised how people can shift when you come to them with a little openness and kindness.
Again, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I guess sometimes in these circumstances we've got to look inwardly to ourselves as well. Because it's quite easy for me to make assumptions about the fault being with the other person. It's much more challenging for me to be introspective enough to think, well, maybe there's something. I'm not saying this is relating to you, Kevin. I'm just thinking of my own experiences here, and maybe you recognise that there's something missing in your own communication style. And I guess that's partly where many of your workshops and intensives focus, Blair. So could you give us some specifics then?
Can I tell you a story that Kevin made me think about somewhat recently, which was that COO came on the scene and really was cleaning up a lot of the operations. The former COO, who wasn't really doing a very good job, got switched to the marketing department. And he was culturally different than the COO, and he kept on stepping into operations issues and really kind of what she felt was taking over, not letting go of his old job, not moving on. And this frustrated her to no end, as you can imagine it might. But when we looked at it, what we really got to see is that it was his way of helping. It was his way of keeping tabs on what was happening. He was still in the transition. He didn't just move so quickly without actual follow-up. And that was a different perspective for her, where she could actually take in what he was saying without feeling so territorial about it. And believe it or not, it stopped after she accepted his help. It managed to wane off. So.
Isn't it funny? Whoa, that's funny as well. When you press the wrong button, not intentional. But isn't it funny that I mean, sometimes people reach those realizations quite quickly, don't they? And other times you can be laboring under the intention that there is a real issue that actually is a non-issue if you just communicate. And what you're saying, Blair, is that the importance of transparent communication is vital, isn't it? Because I could assume if I worked in the same organization as Sandra, that the fact that she was coming to my desk every 5 minutes was because she wanted to micromanage me. Whereas in fact, Sandra might just be a very caring and nurturing manager who was really looking out for my needs, and I've just taken it the wrong way. But unless we talk about it, then maybe that resentment will carry on. But the problem is
here's where I'm going to say something that's not very popular, which is that I think the expectation of transparency is very American. It's very modern American, and it doesn't always happen that way. So what I was sharing with you about that story, actually there wasn't really a dialogue between them.
Right.
You know, the dialogue between them, she was being direct with him, and this was a person, she was American and he wasn't. She was being direct, saying, hey, I'm the COO now, like, you don't have to do this. And he wouldn't stop. And she felt like, why isn't he listening to me? Well, the reason why he wasn't listening to her is because he speaks a different language inside himself. So, so sometimes transparency, sometimes you can't have the open dialogues that we think are the hallmarks of great communication and leadership. Sometimes we need to step back, give people the benefit of the doubt, get back to focusing on what the joint task is.
Yeah, I mean that's
you can have transparency. It's lovely, but sometimes you can't. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a cool point, and I didn't want to infer that we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya because sorry, because clearly, I mean, it's very much in the UK culture as well. We have the open and honest, transparent dialogue, but the reality is there's a job to do as well, and you've got to balance the two. And we don't all have to be friends and loving each other to work respectfully and successfully in a functional organization, whether it be 2 people working together or 20 people. So before I launch into a full rendition of Kumbaya with the full chorus, which will probably alienate everybody in the audience, oh, that'd be really cool. I might. Oh well, I'm not sure about the harmony, but you've got the voice. I certainly haven't. But I'm really curious now, because this is leading me in my thinking towards the dysfunctions and challenges we see in the team of personal relationships and intimate relationships. So we've kind of touched on business and the corporate side, but Blair, I know that so much of what you do is with couples and individuals, and I'd really love to chat a little bit about that now. So if we could move on to that, that would be tremendous.
Sure. You know, my background is really as a therapist and as a drama therapist, which means that I studied how to use theater skills to help people grow and problem solve and heal. And I did that for quite some time. So even though I don't really operate so much from what I call a psychological perspective anymore, it's in me. And it gave me a terrific understanding of people, relationship dynamics, and group dynamics. And so I never really wanted to stop working with couples and individuals. I just wanted to work with them in a new way, rather than the important work of going through your past and understanding your wounds and understanding why you are the way you are and being able to change what you can and accept what you can't. I like to help people focus on what has helped them survive. And those leadership skills that they already possess, because we are all leading ourselves through our lives. We are, even if we perceive ourselves to be a victim, we are the ones getting up in the morning and choosing the foods to put in our body. So, so basically, the story is like this. I have this terrific mentor. And he's taught me everything that I know about organizational and leadership development. And he's a guy, and he's really smart. And I was starting a new relationship that I was really excited about. And basically, you know, if you haven't been single in a while, you may not know, like, you have to have a talk before you have sex with someone. You have to know, what diseases they have been tested for and what protection you're going to use, all that stuff. So we were having that talk, and then because I felt strongly about this person, I added, listen, I care a lot about you, and this act has meaning for me, and I would like, if we're going to go through with this, to not be doing it with other people. And he was fine with that, but he said to me, this man said to me, wow, I've never had a talk like this before sex before. Wow. And I thought, ooh, did I make a mistake? I mean, we went on, and it was terrific, and we had a great relationship for a number of years, but I bookmarked that reaction of his, and I brought it to my mentor, and I said, listen, I have to ask you something. Did I do something wrong? Was I being too controlling in that moment? Should that have been a conversation for another time? What do you think? You're a guy. And he said, oh, hon, he said, you were bringing your leadership. And I went, what? And he said, yeah, well, you were sharing what you wanted, and you were making the space safe for him, and you were letting him know that you were committed, and that was an act of leadership.
Yeah, I really, I invite anybody that wants to ask me the same question to post it in the stream. But no, I mean, no, it's no,
Anyway, it blew my mind, and it totally changed the way I thought about relationships.
No, actually, Blair, I've got a tendency to do that when I'm processing the thinking. It's not meant to be a comedy response, but it's quite interesting because I work with a guy called Chris Howard for a number of years when I got very interested in NLP in the I suppose in the, if I could just find the words that would help, in terms of team building, funnily enough, and coaching. And he had just started a new relationship, and he was talking about, in the context of values and values that individuals have, how his determination was to use some of the processes of leadership and value discussions in a way that he'd never done in relationships before. So this was a guy pretty much doing what you described, but from the reverse side of things. And it was really interesting to me. I kind of thought about it and thought that sometimes we go into the most intimate of relationships with kind of a hope and expectation that they'll work out. And maybe along the way, and obviously we like and we're attracted to that person, but maybe along the way, we evolve, and maybe we don't. And maybe the reason we sometimes reach these staggering, lurching moments and crises in the relationships is because we haven't been that clear. Does that make sense, Pat?
Isn't that what we were just talking about with the new
Exactly, yeah.
Just what we were talking about. We haven't been that clear, and lo and behold, we have an employee that doesn't match our culture, that doesn't match what we hired them for. Indeed. So how does that happen? Exactly the same. So now you're seeing the parallels, and yes, if you're single, the leadership begins with the vision that you have for the partner in the life that you want to create. And then you get to be in a process of not only having fun with the potential mates that you court, but also being able to keep an eye open for the information, to keep your vulnerability alive for the information that's going to lead you either closer to that person or farther away. And one of the things that we haven't talked about, which now that you've said it out loud, is really being able to understand your non-negotiables, your deal breakers.
Sure. Let's talk about that in a second. Can we park that for just a second? I'm conscious of the fact that Sandra's, whenever I see Sandra with the right eyebrow slightly raised, I know she's about to come out with the most killer comment in the universe. That's one thing. And just before we do that, I want to shout out or say a few more shout outs to a number of other people that just joined us. So Tracy, if I haven't already said hello, great to see you, Tracy. Lovely to see you. Zara, always a pleasure to see you, my dear. Kevin, we've already said hi to. And I did see Kristen somewhere. Yeah, Kristen, sorry I'm late. Kristen says, not good enough, Kristen. I know work, but hey, you should have been here earlier. Just kidding, Kristen. It's lovely to see you. Really appreciate you joining us. So, without further ado, Sandra is now raising both eyebrows, which means she's going to be really serious with this next question. So, Sandra, what are you thinking at the moment?
Well, it's really funny because when you were talking, Blair, about telling the non-negotiables, in all of my businesses, that was one of the very first things that I always did with new employees or prospective ones, is telling them the things that we couldn't tolerate. Those were not negotiable. Yeah. This is what we couldn't do, and then. It was funny because you could watch the body language with people, whether this was, even if they never said anything, you could kind of get a feeling where they were with it. But then beyond that, in a intimate relationship, I'm with my husband, we've always done that, me more freely, because I learned on another HOA that I'm the alpha female, so it's okay.
Right.
But I would say, if you want to do those things, that's fine, go ahead, but understand these will be the consequences. I can't deal with them, so they're going to be a deal breaker. And we've never had any problems because we've been very upfront with that. I shouldn't say we haven't had any problems. We've had things that we've had to discuss, but we never fight or really get upset with each other because we know what the non-negotiables are. Now, would I get upset if he came up with one of those non-negotiables? Yeah. And what would I do with it at that point? I don't know. I'd probably have to call you and say, okay, guess what? I did the non-negotiable, and he's doing it. Or at work, that's the non-negotiable. They're doing it. Now what do I do? But I think that's a really, really good point.
I agree. I think the non-negotiable bit, and just looking at couples in my life that have stayed connected, they seem intrinsically good at that level of communication, whether it's implied or they've been really explicit. They know what the boundaries are. And the fragmented relationships tend to be where resentment creeps in over time. And I can hear an echo, actually. Sorry. Resentment sort of creeps in over time, and that causes fragmentation. And in fact, I've got to highlight a comment on that before I bring you back in, if I could, Blair.
Sure.
Somebody had a really profound comment, and it would be a young lady by the name of Tanya Lumiere, who's sharing with us her non-negotiable. I'll just put it up. Coffee is clearly Tanya's non-negotiable. So, regardless of the relationship, I think she was referring back. Tanya, I love that because you're referring back to Blair's earlier quote. What has helped a couple survive?
Right. Right.
And
or an individual. Yeah.
Or an individual,
yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And Tanya, we now know it's coffee for you, which is great. Thank you. I'm just teasing, of course.
Tanya, me too. Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Blair, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
How long did it take you in your life? Let's just talk about that. I mean, I know you've had training and everything, but there's people out there that haven't. How long before you realized that you had to implement some of things like the non-negotiables, negotiables, that type of communication? Because a lot of times people, they even go into relationships of any kind and realize that they didn't even know what they wanted.
Yeah.
And when did you first start learning that you had to figure out what you wanted first before you even started?
I think it was, let's see, it was probably in my, okay, I need to back up a little bit, which is that I've just been on a path since I was 16 years old. So I'm trying to think about when this more sophisticated realization that I think it's always been enhanced. I remember looking for a relationship in my very early 30s and wanting certain qualities in the person. But as I grew and as I developed, there were qualities that I didn't like, and that was how I knew and I learned about my non-negotiables. So I would say it's an ongoing process, and that as I grew and changed, the type of life and the type of partner I wanted also changed.
Mm.
I think that's important for people.
Yeah.
I really do. You know, the one thing that people often say is when you hear them complaining about their mate or their work situation, it's always about what they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if we looked at those in the beginning, wouldn't that make a big difference as far as what we don't want and then what we do want, and actually define those?
Yes, but sometimes we can't see them.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, some of these things do, this is the risk of love, and again, there's no leadership without risk. So, but the risk of love is that we make ourselves vulnerable, that we take the fall with the person, that we set it up, we say there's enough good here, I'm going to go for it, and then you get to find out what works and what doesn't. And sometimes in that process you hit a non-negotiable and it's painful. But oftentimes if you hit a non-negotiable that's actually good for the other person, they can lead themselves out of it. You know, if you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize you gamble, that's not okay. Mm-hmm. They could say, you know what, this isn't really good for me anyway. I'm losing a lot of cash. I need to stop this. Now, I'm not recommending you date an addictive gambler, but I'm just trying to give you a small example of sometimes a non-negotiable can actually be a relationship catalyst. It can actually be an act of leadership.
The bit that really fascinates me here, Blair, is that in my experience, some people are more self-aware than others. So,
right.
So two things occur to me. Firstly, if people are coming to any of your intensives, for some people will be really attuned to their negotiables and non-negotiables. For other people, it would be a job of work to get them to even identify what they are. So they may have areas that they feel really happy with a partner and areas that they feel really uncomfortable with. But if you ask them to explain that, they struggle, I would guess. That's the first thought. And the other thing is, if I've been sat, and I guess you see these people in your intensives, Blair, but if I've been sat with some sort of challenge with my partner for months, if not years, again, it must be quite a big thing to move people in the context of an intensive workshop to that realization within the time that you've got. So how do you manage that, Blair? Because I'm really fascinated by that.
Well, I work with couples, I see a lot of couples on a bi-weekly basis, every other week, until we feel like what we've contracted to do is done. I consider myself to be more of a trainer or a consultant to the couplehood rather than a therapist, but a therapist works. But we are doing this type of training where we're helping people get clear on not only their non-negotiables, but their roles. Yes. Like we were talking about with work, okay? You know, you and I play a number of roles within any given day, and we probably don't even think about switching between them. And I love this example. If you've ever seen someone that you're close with as an adult see their parents, and all of a sudden they turn into a much younger version of themselves, and they say, "Hi, Daddy," and you realize you haven't seen, not only you haven't seen this side, but the role of daughter or son comes out, and you haven't seen them in that role because you're not their parent. And it's just so interesting to note how people change in different roles. And most of our roles are default. We don't think about them. Something happens and it takes shape. Hi, Daddy. Daddy comes in the room and that happens. But if you begin to bring consciousness to your roles and you begin to choose your roles and you begin to negotiate your roles within the partnership, then you're in a process of creativity that can be really dynamic.
I think that's lovely. And what we're saying here then is it's the process and the difference between passivity, if you like, and subconscious behavior versus being an adult and taking ownership. Is this where we're going, Blair?
Yeah, I would say that that's one way of putting it. I also like the word leadership, that rather than being passive, to use your language, you're actually leading. You're leading yourself and the couplehood forward towards a vision that you guys establish together. And that's one of the points in the Lovers and Leaders course that I really, and in a lot of my writings, I believe that a couple needs to, at a certain point, articulate what it is they're doing together.
Yeah, and I really want to touch on the Lovers and Leaders course because I know that's an exciting new offering from you. Yeah. I'm just going to flag up something from Tracy, which we've sort of touched on, but we've skated around a little bit. So thanks for this comment, Tracy. I'm just going to pull it up now. So we can all see that. So Tracy refers to the honeymoon stage. We all know that. So maybe we've set expectations, maybe we haven't. But sometimes we're just seeing the good, aren't we? And then the process of reality kicks in, as Tracy says, and then the fun begins. So we've kind of touched on it, Blair, haven't we? But it is about this leadership. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it is about this coherent leadership throughout. Or have I missed something there?
Well, you know, we're just getting to know each other here. So what Tracy's talking about, that is an important part of leadership and relationship, is understanding phases.
Yeah. Just
like, again, phases and cycles, just like you would in a business, especially a startup. So phases and cycles. The honeymoon phase is a really important phase. It creates bonding. It creates fun. It establishes ritual. It's a very, very important phase. But you can't have a successful relationship without the testing phase. The relationship needs to be tested. And if you can understand together that you're moving into a testing phase, then some of the things that happen can be a little less personal.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, we're just in that phase. Okay, as Tracy said, now the fun begins. I'm being tested here, I bet. Or we're being tested. And how are we going to pull through? What resources do we have together that we can pull through this, or do we not want to pull through, and what's that about? So
yeah, see that's the fascinating $1 million question, isn't it? Because there may actually, if there were an objective view of that couple, there may be a great deal of longevity for that pairing, but actually when they reach that crisis, the boundaries, it's not, I'm trying to articulate this, it's not so much about the non-negotiables, but some people have got a low threshold to looking beyond that immediate challenge and looking at the richness that's within the relationship. And what they'll do is I don't like that. That person doesn't like the same TV program, right? off goes the relationship. Now, maybe that TV program was a non-negotiable, or maybe it was just something that reared its head, if you follow the context, and in the moment became painful enough to become a deal breaker. But this is a great tragedy, isn't it? That some relationships that really should stay together, perhaps, don't, because in the moment people haven't really identified what are the true deal breakers versus the false ones. Is that fair?
That is absolutely fair. I think intimacy is terrifying, and we don't really acknowledge that. So that when we come up against the fact that somebody that we're getting close to is actually going to change us in some cellular way,
right?
Who wants that? You know, and I don't want to give anyone that kind of power. I'm out of here. Right. So any little thing that happens, you know, can be grounds for separation in the face of that fear. And I also think it's a product of our culture. I think that we've had this model of traditional marriage that's not working for a lot of people. It's just not working for a lot of people, but we don't know it, and we don't have new models. And in the face of not having new models, there are a number of things that we do, and one of them is what you said. We just don't commit because we don't believe in marriage. But what we're missing out on is that maybe we do believe in a long-term sacred partnership where people build a bond together by going through good and bad.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it certainly makes me think. I'm looking again. Some great comments coming on. I wish I could put them all on, but I'm just going to put Kristen up here for a second. It is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it also is. I also like it very much. So, Kristen says, "I've been trying a new approach to avoid the honeymoon stage. It's called the I thought of another annoying thing about me that you might not be able to stand stage. I try to find a new thing each day to share." I love that, Kristen. You made me laugh. So,
Kristen,
thank you for
that's so
that.
Cute. And can I speak to that? Because
please.
What's so funny about that is that the prospect of falling in love in the honeymoon stage is so terrifying, as I just said, for so many people, that we want to control it, right? Well, if I tell them that I do this annoying thing, then they'll know, and it'll be out there, and then they can choose to leave now. But the thing about it is that in the honeymoon stage, you can look at someone and go, "Oh, sweetie, I just fart all night in bed." And they'll go, "Isn't that cute? That's the cutest thing in the world." Because that's the phase.
Damn, that was going to be my line. But there you go. I won't use that tomorrow. But you know what? One of my real buddies, Cheryl Deuce, has just turned up in the house, and bless her. There's always something we do, and Cheryl miraculously always turns up exactly as we're about to do it. She's like my guru, and it's called Smash and Trash. So Cheryl, we're doing this just for you. Do you remember, Blair? Have we? Did you remember this? Have you prepared your? Whoa, fantastic! What a relief! What a relief! So we're just going to change things a little bit, and then what we're going to do is come back, and we're going to talk about lovers and leaders, which I think is a real flagship intensive of yours. Actually, I know it goes on over 4 weeks, and there's a mixture of platforms. So
4 classes.
Four classes, forgive me. Yeah, and when I read about it, it sounded very exciting, so I'd love to touch on that. But we will do Smash and Trash for a moment, and I just need to demonstrate my incredible skill set, not with the various. Here we go, Sean. Don't overcook it, my boy. Don't overcook it. Let's try and pull it up. There we go. And it works beautifully, nearly. Guys, sing a song to yourselves while I don't ruin the momentum. So, Smash and Trash, for those of you that have not joined the show before, the whole idea of Smash and Trash is that we invite our guests, and Sandra and I share as well, what the trash being, what is really, we're not talking earth-shattering stuff here, but the trash might be a little bit of an irritant or things that haven't worked out quite so well. And the idea is we then move on to the Smash, which is what has been amazing, what's made our week really, really cool. And it's just a little bit of fun, but it's always quite illuminating as well. So, Blair, if we can start with your trash, that would be fabulous.
I mean, wait, can I have a therapy session now? Can I just vent? Or do I really have to?
You can do it. No. You can vent away, my dear, vent away.
No, I mean at the beginning of the hangout, right when we were in the green room, we were just talking about how the light has so obviously become fall, and I always feel a little bittersweet at the end of summer, and even though my pool is still open. I really don't want to complain about this, but it's just so cold because at night it gets so cold that it looks pretty during the day, but I don't really want to go in it anymore. And the leaves are changing, and I wish I could stop it.
Yes, that has resonance for a lot of people, I'm totally sure. So that's your trash, but you've got some smashes, I know.
Yeah, I've got some smashes.
That's not the trash. Yeah, that's your trash. So that's the. Sorry, I've got a real problem with the earpieces just now. But so your smash. What would that be?
Oh, my smash. I'm actually writing the book called Lovers and Leaders.
Fantastic.
And I've got a few subtitles now. But I've been working with a fantastic mentor named Jeffrey Davis, and we had a wonderful session this week that just made me feel like I'm on the right track. Every other day, I feel like this book is going to be, a bomb and nothing's ever going to come of it. I'm never going to finish it. And then I feel like, oh my God, these are my ideas and I'm really putting them out there into the world. And this week, due to our session, I just feel buoyed and I feel excited and I feel like I've got a clarity of vision about it. So that's my smash.
Hey, that's a heck of a smash, and actually just looking at you, Blair, as you said that, I mean, you're radiant, you're lighting up, so we're all really looking forward to seeing the outcome of that, because it's going to be, if it's anything like your face at the moment, it's going to be absolutely magnificent. So thank you so much for sharing. That's
absolutely
terrific. Now, Sandra, you've always got some amazing, and you're going to cry, because I know what your trash is, I do.
I know, I want to cry about it, and it is funny because Blair has, prepared it in the sense that she's feeling the same way. I'm really sad about the summer coming to an end because of our container garden, and we have basil. And we have 3 little tiny plants. It's our second planting, and I'm not a gardener at all. I really am never. But these things have grown up, and last night they wilted because of the cold. It got down under 50, and we were looking at them, sitting out there, and they were wilted. So my trash was, I was very, very sad because the basil was going. And I've actually felt like they were, Sean and I were talking, and I said, I'm going to name it Ted and Basil. It's going to be a new show. And so then I got to thinking, okay, what was the smash about it? Something good about this. And the good was that they grew to 2.5 feet tall. I had a jungle of basil all the last part of summer from July to August. Never had anything like that before. So, okay, it's sad they're dying and they're going to be going, but they were really a brilliant forest for a long time.
Oh, that's a lovely thing. Oh, I feel a little lump in my throat there, Sandra. That's so moving. Well,
somebody's going to have to send me some more basil for inside.
It's on its way. It's being air couriered from the UK as we speak. Just for you, Sandra. So just a sign of appreciation. well, my trash. I mean, my trash is. It's kind of connected with the fact it's my birthday very shortly, and I kind of have had this Peter Pan complex for a while, and I'm coming to the very slow and inexorable conclusion that I am indeed getting older. And it was brought home to me a couple of weeks ago when I went to get my hair cut, and this mane is really gelled down, but if it's... is that my microphone echoing or something? I don't know what's going on. Sorry, this is ruining the momentum here, but I can hear a hell of an echo just now. Let's try that again. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Sorry, guys. Anyway, to get back to the story, I went to a new to get my hair cut in a new salon, and as I walked in with a Peter Pan complex, there was this new, obviously it being a new salon, this young woman that I'd never seen before, who offered me coffee, and there seemed to be a little bit of a spark, and I wasn't silly enough to realise that being double her age, there was anything more than just a bit of spark and courtesy, but it really suited my Peter Pan complex. So I happily took the coffee, and I sat down. We had, as she was cutting my hair, we had a lot of, there was a little bit of a spark, and we had a nice little bit of communication. And I was thinking, there you go, Sean, you're approaching your birthday. And it is an epic, momentous birthday, and clearly she doesn't think that you're past your sell-by date, so that's great. And then we got to the ultimate indignity, which just as this was happening, I was feeling good. she paused and she looked me in the eye and she said, well, Sean, I've really enjoyed talking to you, but would you like your eyebrows and ear hairs trimming as well? And I suddenly thought, my God, this is it. I've turned into my dad, you know, the hirsute creature from you know, from Lord of the Rings. It's happening. The age is happening. So that was that was a trash. And I know all the guys in the audience are either crying or looking horrified at me. But the smash, to uplift it before everyone gets absolutely horrified, is the reverse of that. It's all about age, but it was such a good story. I saw this on Good Morning America on Saturday, and I thought it was beautiful. The story relates to a lady called Mary Kimmy, and Mary comes from a place called Hiram, if I pronounced that correctly, which is in Utah. And Mary, bless her little socks, had decided that she was going to do a 17,000-foot parachute skydive, to be specific, jump, solo. The interesting thing about Mary was she was 91. And what she did was, because her sons and part of her family had really upset her that they wouldn't take her on a motorbike fast enough to satisfy her, she decided she was going to outdo them by going on a skydive. She paid for 4 generations of her family to leap out of this plane, and it was filmed and shown on Good Morning America. And as I sat there, and I thought to myself, I'd gone out for a run, and my knees were a little bit achy, and I was thinking, oh, you know, you're getting old, Sean. And I saw this beautiful woman leaping out of a plane at 17,000 foot at 91 years of age. I just thought, my God, you know, it's such a great illustration that if the mind's there and if we conceive of something and we do it with the right spirit, we can really do whatever we want. And for me, that was the smash of the week. It really has this. It's just been absolutely amazing. So, Marie, from me, thank you very much. Big fan in the UK. So that's that. Eyebrow hairs and Marie. We've moved through drama to high ecstasy there. But Blair, I would like to finish and move towards the end of the show just talking about Lovers and Leaders, because it is a fascinating program, and I don't think I've got a proper glimpse of what it's about. So can you share with us what it's all about?
Sure. It's 4 weeks in a row, 4 courses. And basically, it's a teleclass, although you can see me, and I do a little whiteboarding, and I send you notes at the end. So that's the format. But really, it's for singles and for couples who are looking to improve their experiences in relationship by learning how leadership skills can help them thrive and create the relationships that are right for them, not the relationships that they think they should have or that were right for their parents, but for the 2 people involved. And that takes creativity. And I think one of the things that I really feel is important about using leadership skills in relationship is that some people think that being in a good relationship means talking about it all the time. I don't actually think that's useful, because when you actually get clear on what it is you want to do with somebody else, it doesn't usually involve that much talking about the relationship. It's usually something like having fun together or creating a business together or parenting. So so I help couples create a vision, and I help singles create their vision in this course, and I give them the tools to do that. And then we talk about the roles that you play that you're not quite aware of, that you've realized that you play in relationship that might not work. You get a chance to practice negotiating with your partner those roles for the homework if you have one. If not, you get to envision what roles you're really not interested in playing in your next relationship and what roles might excite you in the dating process. And then we get to talk, and this is one of my favorites, how to negotiate in relationship rather than bicker, how to predict fights, how to playfully approach conflicting situations, how to really, and this is such an important aspect of teamwork, how to thrive in the face of tension and difference.
Without giving the game away, Blair, I mean, those last 2 points, all of that resonated with me, and I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Great. Oh, good.
The bits about how to avoid bickering, I think, will have resonance with people in any form of relationship, and turn that into playfulness. That's absolutely fascinating. Now, I know I'm not asking you to give away the nature of the workshop, and I appreciate that people would have to go through the experience of the training to fully get it. But that's so exciting, isn't it? If you can transform those elements or help a couple transform those elements, what a huge difference that could make, I guess.
Yeah, huge difference. I see we only have 1 minute left, so I can't tell a story about that right now. But
let's go for a minute. You tell a story.
I just had a wonderful talk with somebody who called me in a panic. She's on vacation in her new relationship, and she just said, you know, he's getting cold, and I'm feeling like a victim, and it's making me want to do things that I don't want to do anymore. And we've been working together for some time. And I said, well, who do you want to be? And she went, and she thought about it, and she said, well, I want to be a powerful woman. I said, well, what powerful women do you know that you have wanted to emulate? And she said, well, there's this family friend named Greta. I used to call her Aunt Greta, and Aunt Greta could handle anything. She never seemed to get ruffled. And I said to her, well, how would Aunt Greta handle this situation? And she said, oh, my God, and she started to laugh, and she said she would tease him. She would be like, oh, look who's Mr. Grumpy now, you know, and you know, something got your goat, rather than just reacting and going into that default, oh my God, I'm going to be abandoned little girl place that so many women go to. She felt that she found a new role and a new choice around it, and it was very exciting. It was very exciting to be in that moment with her. So Lovers and Leaders can help you learn how to do that if it interests you.
Well, we're not going to wrap up just yet, because I just want to ask you, just before we do close, how people can contact you further and engage with you. I also just want to make sure that Sandra has asked a question, which I suspect you might have, Sandra. You're looking thoughtful. Is there anything you wanted to ask Blair in that regard, Sandra?
Oh, what I would ask her would take a while for her to answer, so I can't do that. But one of the things I do want to say, I thought that one little sentence that she brought up about halfway through was the intersection of leadership and skills was one of probably the best things that we should keep in mind, perhaps. I think that's really a great way to put that, Blair.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Me too. One quick shout out, by the way. I know it's right at the end. Yassine, bless you for I know you've been really busy today. I was aware that you had lots on from what you'd said yesterday. So thank you, Yassine, for joining us. If you're still here, I know you're going to watch a replay, but much appreciated. So Blair, what types of people should be coming to you for Lovers and Leaders? Can you give us a bit of a flavour? And if there are any of those people in the audience that want to engage with Blair, can you share with us how people should best contact you?
Absolutely. I love email, which is through my website. You're Blair@blairglazer.com. Yeah. And you can always reach me through email. You can stay in touch with me by signing up on my website. I don't send out every blog post to my mailing list, but I do give you the most of them. And I share things with the people that sign up that I don't share in social media. And some of the tips that and the experience that I just shared with you, those are the type of things that I share with people who sign up for my list. You know, my phone number's on my site. If you're in the New York area, you can come see me in the city or in my studio in Woodstock. And I work with people on phone and Skype. So, but let's start usually by email, and let's see what your needs are and if I can help you, or if you just want to connect. What was the other thing I'm talking about? Lovers and Leaders? What?
Yeah, I mean the other thing was that's how to connect. So the sort of people that would get the most benefit from Lovers and Leaders.
So I only take 12 people per class. It's a small, intimate class. So you know, you don't have to talk, but most people find themselves piping in. So if you're somebody that likes something interactive, this is not the kind of class that you're going to do where you're washing the dishes and just listening to. This is the kind of class where if you've had questions about relationship, if you feel that the current situation that you're in isn't really working for you and you'd like to enhance it, you're perfect for the course. If you're in crisis in relationship, then the course isn't going to be for you. But if you're in a new relationship and you're feeling like it might not work out, it's going to be a good relationship. It's really going to help you develop a model of relationship and thinking about relationship that'll carry you through a long way. So I think it's a great investment, and it's very affordable. I do recommend that people add private sessions on with the class so that they can really digest the information, but you don't have to. If you feel that you can digest it on your own, that's wonderful. So that's the class, and those are the people. I'll tell you, in the first time I ran it, I had a couple that had been married for 25 years in it, a couple that was just starting out, a single woman who was lesbian, a single woman who is just in a new relationship, and a guy who was single also. And I think there's someone I'm missing. Sorry about that. Oh, another couple that had been together for 3 years and they were younger. So that was the first group. So there you go.
Which is brilliant. So in other words, anyone who's got any curiosity or desire to learn more about relationships, it's for them. People can reach you on www.blairglazer.com, and initially your preferred communication is email. But the beauty of this, Blair, as I understand it, is that you'll also share things that aren't necessarily shared more broadly on social media, so people can connect with you in a very, very different way, which is absolutely superb. Now, we're just about to close the show. We are in the last minute, if you like, but normally what I do is I just ask the guest, and Sandra and myself do this as well, if there were one parting thought that could be left with our audience, what would that be? So I'll start with yourself, Blair. If there was just one thing you could say to the audience, what would that be from you?
I would say that you can be satisfied in love, that you can really be satisfied in love. What it's going to take is just a little bit of loosening up what you think your satisfaction is, and also being willing to learn some skills that can help you get that satisfaction.
Brilliant. So that's really clear. Loosening up and getting the skills that will help you get the satisfaction. That's fantastic. Thank you, Blair. For yourself, Sandra,
thank you so much.
No, pleasure. What would you say, Sandra? What's your take-home message, if you like?
The one thing that I found very informative was that we are all leaders. It doesn't make any difference how you want to look at it, but we each are a leader because we are a leader of our own life. I thought that was very good.
Yeah, I had that, and as you said,
well, you can't have it. I have it.
Oh,
get your own, Sean.
Yes,
no, I'm going to get my own now. Well, if that's how you feel. No, actually, that's one of my non-negotiables, so you cannot have that.
Okay, Blair, we need help.
No, in all seriousness and all joking aside, I actually do like that point about non-negotiables. I think in my own personal experience, I've not always been great at defining them, and that's a bit of transparency from me. But also in the relationships that I've seen that have thrived really well, whether, as I said earlier, whether it's been explicitly stated or whether people have just been comfortable enough to communicate them in a different way, there's always been clarity about the non-negotiables. So when that inevitable crunch point comes, when things are happening and maybe work pressures are building up and there are tensions elsewhere, the boundaries are understood, and because they're understood, it just makes that relationship work a little bit better. So for me, there's loads of brilliant things you said, Blair, and I thank you for all of them. But for me, that one is really resonating. So that's terrific. And
so glad.
No, absolutely. And Blair, a big thank you to you. I know you've got so many things going on at the moment. So we'll conclude the show. Big thanks to Blair. Absolutely enjoyed having you on, Blair. If anyone wants to contact Blair, remember it's www.blairglazer.com, and you can reach Blair via email on that particular site. Sandra and I thank you, Blair. Brilliant show. Thanks to everybody in the audience, and really look forward to catching up with you all soon, guys. Take care for now. Bye now.
Bye.